What's up, everybody, and welcome to a special playoff edition of the OH.Report video podcast, now merged together with the Friday Night Pigskin, so all of your favorite things from that recipe conveniently rolled up into one, and we're not ready to move past Halloween yet, so we just kind of Frankensteined everything together. My name is Brian Skoronsky, back up popping with the crew. You might notice for me, no Victory Monday for Browns fans, so no fancy jacket, but I'm surrounded by a bunch of disgusting Steelers fans. Oh, hey, there's one. How about Travis Berardi, better known as, Pig League.
The Browns is the Browns.
K-Mac Trav, just giving me the biz. Why not? And no G-Man today, so the new dynamic duo over here about Storm Blunchley and Hayden Gray. So basically it's our version of a beanpole, or if Joe Dirt ate that beanpole and all of his friends. What do you guys think about that?
I don't get the reference, but never a Victory Monday if you're a Lions fan.
Oh, so Storm, he understands my pain, my anguish, and for Hayden, any response?
We'll get to play the Lions soon, so who knows? I mean, worse things have happened, so you guys could get a win, but like you said earlier, you could get the first 0-17 year ever, so first perfect season in 17-week football history.
Yay, something to look forward to. And how about a special guest joining me in studio today? How about the voice of high school sports right here in North Central Ohio? Brian Harder is in the building.
And a long-suffering Browns fan, so I picked the right time to come in to help reinforce at least that side of the ledger from here. So.
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate that, Brian. We're going to kick off today's show with highlights from every single playoff football game that we had over the weekend, and there were a lot of them. We'll begin over at Arlen Field, Mansfield Senior, taking on the Lexington Minutemen for the second time this season. Let's go ahead and roll that clip. Let's check it out, see how it happened. So here's the Tigers looking to defend Arlen, where they beat the Minutemen earlier in the year. And how about Brock Hill going up top? And he's got his man, Miles Bradley, into the end zone. This made it 7-0 early in the first quarter. But the Minutemen would come right back. How about Carson Berry? Phenomenal season for him. 7-yard TD, and we're all square at 7 apiece. Fast forward now, second quarter. And how about Bradley? Yet again, shaking loose. He's in the end zone. He's got another touchdown grab. So the Tigers regain the lead, but not for long. Cole Pauly going to hook up with Newman here. What a throw, even better catch, into the zone, back to square at 14 all, but just before the half, we would see Newman, Brock Hill would get the Tigers into the end zone for the lead. They would extend the lead here with Ricky Mills on a 4-yard touchdown run, 28-14, and the play of the game would be Miles Bradley. Tasting Pater for the third time in the game as he shakes loose down the sideline, giving the biz to the Lexington secondary. So Mansfield Senior with the big lead. Lexington would make it look a little bit better on paper here, getting in for a touchdown. 37-21, though. Tigers would go on to win. And how about the student section showing out at Arlen Field? Brian, you called the game for us, and I understand that you really liked what we saw from the Mansfield Senior defense. Do tell me more, sir.
Well, I tell you what, this team is probably, in my opinion, the most complete team in the area, and the only thing that would bolster that is if they could get more consistency out of their running game. But as you saw, Brock Hill is having an outstanding season. And Chokey Bradley made an interesting comment to me the other day. He asked him about the defense, and he said it's a collective effort. You look at that team, and they don't have what you would define as a stud defensively, but they have guys all over the field that can make plays, and that makes them dangerous. Now, the passing game, Miles Bradley benefits from having Avion Gross on the other side of the field, and that makes them very explosive through the passing game. A little bit more consistency with the run, but I think they're one of the teams to beat in their region.
And certainly Brock Hill, you talked about the things that you like about him, and certainly maybe the receiving core is one of the things that you would love about this Tigers passing game, but in particular, number 4, he brings a lot of leadership qualities. He's pretty darn sharp, and he is a versatile threat where he can take off and run if he needs to, Bri.
He does, and Bradley kind of made that game manager comparison to him early in the season, because we saw them earlier in the year, and then we saw them last weekend. And the difference to me is the confidence that Brock Hill is playing at right now. And he, to me, has just taken his game to a different level. Chokey told me they went back to their playbook, and tried to find ways that they could make him a little more effective, and one of them was using his legs. He is their leading rusher, which, again, to me, when your quarterback is your leading rusher, that concerns me heading into the postseason, but it also gives them another dynamic of their offense, and it created a lot of confidence with Brock, and now he's starting to hit the big throws as well, which makes them especially dangerous.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the Tigers and what you forecast for them in the postseason moving forward a little bit later in the show. But let's get on to another game. How about Clear Fork and Shelby meeting for the second straight week? Storm Blunchley saw both of these contests go down, and it seems like, two teams matching up again. You thought it might be different in the second meeting, but kind of the same result.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. And even in the post-game, Rob Mahaney, the coach over there at Shelby, was talking about, that it is pretty difficult to beat a team the second time around. However, Shelby, they made it look easy, to be honest. But let's take a look at those highlights. Starting us off on a very rainy and muddy WW Skiles Field, Skylar Winter dashes 30 yards into the end zone to start off the scoring for the Shelby Whippets, 7-0. Next up, Marshall Shepard, this time using his legs to get in the end zone from 2 yards out. After this, we would fast forward to the third quarter. Shepard, same exact spot, 2 yards out, but this time he's going to take a lick as he crosses the goal line, but holds onto the rock and scores again for the Whippets. Fourth quarter action now. Victor Skoog gets flushed out of the pocket, as you're seeing right now, makes a play right here, a gorgeous one, shake and bake right there, bye-bye ankles, then dots up his guy, Milo Bergholder, for the flashy 31-yard score to put the Colts on the scoreboard. And finally, to put the cherry on top of things, Marshall Shepard searching, flushed out of the pocket as well, doesn't find things, but he says, you know what, I'm going to do it myself, and that he does, gets into the end zone, stretches out, makes an athletic play, and that would bring us to our final score of 28-7 in favor of the Shelby Whippets.
Not the typical Whippets that we're used to seeing this year, Storm. If I would have told you that Marshall Shepard was going to throw for 0 touchdowns in this game, would you have believed that the Whippets would have not only won, but they dominated by 3 scores?
Definitely not, but Skylar Winters, 14 carries for 110 yards. That's probably a season high. I have to fact check that, but they were getting it done on the ground where they needed to most. It was a wet and slippery field, so it seems like they were taking advantage, but Skylar Winters really putting his head down in the game and making some grown man runs.
We'll see if he can continue and do that as they get deeper into the postseason. But just in this one game against Clear Fork, were you impressed with what you saw from Mr. Winters? Because he had not been a standout performer on very many occasions, but they haven't asked him to be much this year.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that this is one of the first games where they actually felt like they needed to rely on the run. It was, like I said, inclement conditions, and anyone who was there will tell you the same thing, and I think anyone who's been to WW Skiles will tell you the same thing. So, yeah, they really relied on him, and he stepped up when he needed it most, and on the brightest stage in the first round of the playoffs. He's the real deal.
A guy who played at WW Skiles Field that knows a thing or two about that, Hayden Gray, is going to tell you guys about Galion versus Clyde. This was a Tigers team that had been kind of dropping off of the radar a little bit over the last several weeks, Hayden, and they had to go on the road and play a really good team. Didn't get much better.
No, they have not had things going their way as of probably the second half of the season on, and going to play Clyde in the first round wasn't going to get any better. So we're going to go ahead and take you through those highlights when they went up to Clyde. First off, we're going to have Michael Daniels getting it in early from just a short distance, putting up Clyde 7-0. Then another run by Michael Daniels, 6-12. In the first quarter, makes it 14-0. Then you're going to see a 35-yard touchdown catch by Griffin Knopf to put Clyde up 21-0. And it wouldn't stop there, as Brady Wilson's going to haul a 17-yard touchdown with 7 minutes still left in the second quarter. Next, you're going to see the bad luck continue here for Galion. Off a tip, you're going to have an 82-yard pick six by Brady Wilson, giving Clyde a 35-0 lead with still time left to go in the second half. So it's not going to stop there for Galion. Unfortunate, but we're going to speed things up a little bit. And we're going to have Dylan Overmeyer coming up next on a 4-yard touchdown run, putting up Clyde 42-0. And just when you thought it would stop, it didn't. A 25-yard pick six, second of the half. Abe Morrison puts Clyde up 49-0.
Yikes.
And it just didn't stop there. Galion was able to get on the board. Sam Wegeson, 3:35 in the quarter, gives him a 49-7, a chance. But no. Clark Norman, 29-yard touchdown run, the cherry on top, and that's going to send Clyde on to the second round, 56-7. And tough outing for Galion to have to go play a really tough Clyde team. So that's going to be a big matchup. We just started talking about Shelby. That's who they're going to have to go see. So Galion maybe not the best way to weight that scale for the Whippets, but they better get ready because Clyde's going to put points up quick, and they're looking to score at all chances, offense and defense, Brian.
Yeah, Galion in a free fall here at the end of the year. Clyde definitely didn't throw him a safety net at all, Hayden, and the defense definitely got it done. The 2 pick sixes, those of course are huge game changers. Anytime that your defense can put points on the board, it just seems like 2 teams trending in different directions is what happened in this one.
Yeah, Galion, they struggled to find some offense, obviously some changes on their lineup at all times, position-wise. I don't think they ever found a true identity this year. So that's something that you've got to have come postseason time. So Clyde just able to take advantage of an inexperienced and a bit just out of question Galion team. So hopefully for the Tigers, they'll be able to look in the offseason, see what they still have and are able to put together for a better chance next year.
Yeah, and like you said, Clyde going to be playing Shelby 3rd year in a row in the postseason coming up on Friday night. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a bit. But we move on now. Northmor had lost 2 in a row at the Castle. Fredericktown wanted to make it 3 in a row, but Northmor would not let that happen. Travis Berardi, break it down for us. What happened in this one, pal?
Well, these 2 teams, they met earlier in the season. You and I saw it was a 40-20 Golden Knight victory, but that was before the skid by Northmor, and that was before Fredericktown got the big Freddie Berg trophy victory over Centerburg to get in. So were the tides turned, or could Northmor pull it off? Let's take you to the highlights and see. Freddies, they would strike first on their opening drive. Xavier Mullins gets behind the secondary, and Ben Mast finds him wide open. 23 yards, 6-0 Freddies, but the Golden Knights answer on its opening drive. Max Lauer on the sweep, has 2 guys to beat, gets the corner, dives for the pylon, and he's in. Extra point good, 7-6 Northmor. Late second now, and Lauer battles his way in from 2 yards out. It's 14-6 Knights. Now to the second half, Northmor up 21-6, 3rd and 25 from their 25, and Marcus Cortez finds Andrew Armros over a defender, breaks 2 tackles, puts on the afterburners. No one will catch him. 28-6 Northmor after 3, but Fredericktown, they would not go away. Tegan Rule takes the handoff, but it's a trick play. He throws to the end zone and finds Trevor Jobs for 6. They get the 2-point conversion, but it's too late, too little too late, as Northmor wins it 28-14.
Knights defense played well, man. They hold the Bears at just 2 scores, and you see they had to pull out a little bit of trickery to even get into the end zone. Travis, in your opinion, is that the key for the Golden Knights, is just playing solid defense to get the dubs?
That's one of the keys. They held Fredericktown under 200 yards total offense. They held the running attack of Tegan Rule and Cade Carpenter. Tegan Rule, top 10 rusher in the area. Cade Carpenter as well compliments him. They held them Rule to 56 yards, Carpenter to 31. Carpenter was a quarterback in the first meeting. They put him out as a wide receiver, more of that, a jet sweep type deal. It's worked for Fredericktown, but Northmor was able to shut it down. The other key that they need is the passing game. We saw the Cortez 75-yard pass to Andrew Armros. He had 80 yards total passing. They need to complement Max Lauer moving on in the playoffs. Lauer over 200 yards rushing here. He did what they needed him to do in this round, but moving forward, if they want to get their first ever second-round victory in the playoffs, they're going to have to be more balanced, and that starts with Marcus Cortez.
Yeah, Max Lauer, a bull yet again, and when he's running really well, they're a tough team to beat, but I agree, Travis, they got to complement that with a couple of big passes, which they were able to do in that game, so the Golden Knights, moving on, we'll look more into their forecast of the future in just a little bit. But one of their K-Mac rivals, the East Knox Bulldogs, also playing at home on Saturday night. Me and Brian Harder were there. We've got some highlights. So the Dogs, a perfect 5-0 at home this season, and they would get off to a nice fast start. Shane Knepp, how about this one? Cutting it all the way back against the grain. 15 yards into the end zone. It was 7-0 Dogs. And East Knox on the defensive side now, but this play's going to produce the same exact result as the first highlight. How about Knepp? Intercepts the Eagles, and he's going to cover 65 yards of real estate all the way to the end zone. How about the blocking, too? All set up, everybody getting out. 14-0 East Knox. It's 27-zip now, closing seconds of the second quarter. Peyton Lester shimmies his way up through the pocket, and guess who? Yep, it's Knepp. 30 yards to the zone this time. And that would trigger the running clock. More Knapp now in the second half. And watch this. He's about to steamroll a safety. Get out of my way. This would set up Cole DeLauder for one of his 2 touchdowns as the Dogs would flat out roll in this game. It was never close, 41-13 before they put the JVs in and let them play for basically the entire second half. So, Bri, you see everything on display for East Knox. They got the senior quarterback, pretty good. Got a sophomore running back who don't run like no sophomore. No. And they have the clean defense. Are there any weaknesses for East Knox?
I don't see it. I really don't, because you talked about Peyton Lester is the top passer in the KMAC. You get the running of Cole DeLauder, who I thought going into that game was going to be a bigger factor because of the weather.
Sure.
I mean, they were calling for rain, but Shane Knapp just took over and had a awesome display of all the things that he can do. And as you mentioned, he did it in a variety of different ways.
Yeah.
But the things that really stood out to me was their defense. I mean, they really took Eastern out of what they wanted to do. Eastern had a running back that had rushed for almost 400 yards the week before, and he was a non-factor. They completely shut him down. That was just a complete performance for East Knox in game 1.
And you said that you love the defense. You know, I'm a big sucker for their offense because I like the signal caller. Of course, he's having an awesome season. But the dynamic playmakers, I mean, you're seeing it right here. The way that they're able to utilize their wide receivers, Brian, you know, it's a really explosive offense, and it's hard, I think, to predict what they are going to do next.
No, and Lester can spread the ball around. I mean, it was Shane Knapp's night last weekend, but he's got Carson Steinmetz, he's got Dylan Moreland, he's got guys that he can throw the ball to, and he's hitting DeLauder out of the backfield. So they have a lot of other weapons that he can go to, and that makes them, it's just like watching Mansfield Senior. That wide receiver room has got to be the offensive coordinators. It's just a dream
Sure.
of, well, let's see, what can we run now? And everything every button they pushed worked for them last weekend.
And the home fans, they let them know when they do something good. I mean, the
they
confetti's
let them
popping
know.
off.
It is, if you have never been to a home game at East Knox and you love high school football, you need to go to Howard to watch a game. Those fans, from the second that team takes the field, they're into it, they're loud, and they love their Bulldogs.
It's the only place where they have to make rules. No air horns, guys, because too many people show up with these things. It's crazy over-the-top fun and excitement. But they do allow cowbells. That's right. They did allow those.
Well, I heard they weren't allowing them, but they got in anyway. We just, we won't tell
Can't keep the cowbell out of Howard.
No.
All right, we won't talk about that. Lucas was the top seed in D7 Region 25, but 16th seeded Mapleton didn't really get the memo, I don't think. This one was really close until it wasn't, Hayden.
Yeah, you know, when we were down in Howard for the East Knox game, someone up top gave me the score to this game at halftime, and I was like, really?
What?
So I was a little bit surprised. So let's dive into those highlights, and let's see exactly how we ended up where we did. First touchdown we're going to have is Grant Barrett running in from 12 yards to put Lucas up 6-0 in the first quarter, so getting on the board first. But the second touchdown we're going to have is Clyde hooked up with Bew Galbraith for a 31-yard touchdown right down the sideline with time running out of the second half, only 26.2 remaining in the first half. And then a 2-point conversion put the Mounties up 8-6. But then, less than a minute into the start of the third, Lucas would go back on the ground attack with a 13-yard run by Barrett, and they would go for 2 to go up 14-8 advantage. Then we got a Mapleton regain of the lead with a pick six by Colin Grundy. In the third, the senior intercepted a screen pass and bobbled it, but still able to get into the end zone. With 3:22 left in the third, though, Finello's going to score on a 20-yard run, making the score 20-16. Walks in untouched for a 2-point conversion for a Lucas lead of 22-16. Then, with 10:59 to play, Grant Barrett's going to score a 1-yard rushing touchdown to put Lucas up 28-16. And then to cap things off, we're going to have Grant Barrett with a 3-yard touchdown run with 4:49 to play. And that would solidify the Lucas Cubs going on to the second round. So, a bit of a scare for the Cubs, I must say. But they were able to take care of business, buckled down, and speaking of places to play, obviously going down to Cub Country is another great place to watch a game, so they're definitely looking forward to moving on and having a second-round home game.
Yeah, I don't know who I would pick if someone put a gun to my head and was like, Brian, what's the best place to go see small football in Ohio? You know, Howard is so good, but then they do it right, too, at Bob Weinfield, so that's definitely like 1A and then 1B. You know, they kind of flip-flop for me. And then in the backfield, you know, they kind of have that same thing, 1A and 1B with Finello and Grant Barrett. But to me, Grant Barrett's kind of the bell cow that keeps things moving for them. In your opinion, if he plays well, is that the key to their success? 3 touchdowns for him, and it seems like when he gets into the end zone, typically the Cubs are having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. It's a luxury for them to have to decide who's going to get more carries out of those 2 guys. You know, Fennell's been someone that's been injured a little bit this year, so Grant Barrett carried a heavy load, and they didn't skip a beat. So I think you're right. I think it's fair to say that's their key to success, and it just makes it all that more sweet that you can add Fenello into this offense, and that's going to help you in the postseason when you have that depth and got people healthy. So they continue to just run that wing tee, and it just wears you down. And now that everyone's healthy, I think that's going to bring them a lot of success, especially in the second round.
I think it's the one team in the area that I don't think they need a passing game to be successful. I don't think that I would be concerned if I looked at the stat sheet and the Cubs didn't complete a pass. I think they'd still be okay.
Yeah.
And Brian, if you remember, slow start, you shouldn't worry about it. Remember when they went to the state championship game a couple years ago, the McDonald game, their first round, they needed a stop on a 2-point conversion in overtime to get out of the first round, and they kept rolling. So the slow start, it may scare you just for a little bit, but Lucas, they're a team that recovers, and that second half, especially against Mapleton, they showed who they were.
All right, our last highlight from the weekend, it was Crestview hosting Northwood, the number 2 Cougars. It wouldn't be like the Cubs game. They put the baby to bed early, Storm. This one was, wow, lights out right from the jump.
Yeah, Crestview, just like every week so far in the football season, they came to play. I'm not going to waste any time. Just go ahead and get right into those Crestview highlights. Starting us off, who else but the dude Connor Morris slicing and dicing the defense for the first of many TD scores for the Cougars. Next up, Hayden Kuhn rolls to his right, makes a throw on the run to his fullback Wade Bolin, for the 4th down score to put the Cougars up. Then Connor Morris once again doing what he does best, finding the gap in the defense and making defenders look silly. And how about this one on another familiar sight for Cougars fans? Morris once again takes the handoff, this time just a short run to find his 3rd touchdown. Hayden Kuhn takes a 3-step drop back and puts the perfect spiral into the air, and Addison Raymer goes up and does the rest. Northwood trying to take the donut off their scoring column, and that they would do on that short run, which would bring us to our final of 42-7 in favor of the Cougars.
Connor Morris, another great game. He does it every single week. Hayden Kuhn, too. He's one of the more sharp quarterbacks that we have in the area. Give me some collective thoughts about the Cougars' offense and what they were able to accomplish on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, they're really impressive. They're one of the most well-put-together offensive squads in the area, probably the best offense in the area, I think, even above, the Shelby Whippets that I always, talk so highly on. They're just so complete. It's honestly just a lot of fun to watch them play, and I know that Ross Kuhn, the older brother to Hayden, has been, talking a lot about how great Hayden is, and I've kind of been downplaying it, but hey, Hayden really showed up, I think. He didn't really have to do a whole lot this game, but he went out and did a whole lot anyways.
I think the Crestview defense, too, equally as dominant as the offense. You talked about the donut that they were finally able to take off the board with the game already out of control, that being Northwood. Just how good was the Cougars' D on Saturday, too?
It was incredible. I don't believe that on the first, 5 drives that Northwood even had like 50 yards. So it was pretty impressive, and their special teams play as well. I mean, it's just a put-together football team. They almost blocked 3 or 4 punts, and their defense really stepped up. Their offense was incredible. It is just a solid put-together football team.
So those are all the highlights that we covered every single game that we had on the OH.Report this weekend. So, a lot of great-looking performances. Some individuals played well. We saw teams come together as a unit. But who actually impressed you most from top to bottom? Storm, I got a feeling I know where you're going with this. Who was it?
I'm kind of answering this one for G-Man. Who's living it up in Minnesota right now, I believe, and myself, the Crestview Cougars. I mean, absolutely blew the doors off their opponent. I mean, no mercy, and you could tell Haverdale wanted to score. He wanted to prove a point, I think. He's still trying to prove that, all the doubters, they're wrong. Crestview is the real deal, and I think, especially this week with the big matchup versus Colonel Crawford, I think it's going to be a big proving step for a lot of teams. But so far, Crestview, through week 1 of the playoffs, they have been absolutely unstoppable.
What I love most about this Crestview team, at least the players that I've had an opportunity to talk to, was that they care about the newspaper clippings at the beginning of the year. They are still keeping that chip firmly on their shoulder like they're Tom Brady. They're going into every single game mad, like nobody gives them a chance, and they're one of the best teams in the state, I think, because of it. And Travis, I believe that you're jumping on the bandwagon too now, right? And you agree that the Cougars may be the most dominant the weekend?
I've been on the bandwagon for a little bit, but I'm actually going with two teams. I'm going with Crestview East Knox. So I wasn't in town. I was at a wedding in Kentucky, but thanks to the OH.Report being live and free, I was able to pull it up on my phone.
Yeah.
Got done with dinner. Games were starting. I immediately turned them on. Crestview East Knox already up 7-0. I'm like, okay, good start for them. Go out on dance floor, cha-cha. Sly was playing a little bit. Got the dance going. Come back to take a break. It's 21-0 for both of them, not even before the half. It's more music. Country Road starts going on. We go out there playing, singing it together. Come back out. It's 35-0. These two teams, high seeds, took care of business, knocked out the teams that they were supposed to, unlike some other squads. Like, no 16-1 upsets coming over here, even though it's happening in other places in the state. But these two teams took care of business, did what they needed to do, and really impressed me moving into week 2 of the playoffs.
All right, so K-Mac Trav giving some love to the little guys. But Hayden, you actually feel like one of the bigger schools in the area was the best of the weekend. Tell me more.
Yeah, I'm not going to go with a Crestview and East Knox simply because when I looked at the word impressed, they impressed me, but Travis kind of hit it on the head. They're both high-seeded. That they did what they're supposed to do. Sure. I will say that at least. And not that Mansfield Senior didn't have the upper seed on Lexington, but I think I'm impressed with them the most because it's kind of like a Crestview saving those clippings from the beginning of the year. At least from where I was around, they were happy, but Mansfield Senior's far from satisfied with the way they performed Friday night. I could tell just the body language of the players and coaches. They're happy, but, man, they have a lot more on their mind. The good things they did do well, we've talked a lot about them already today, but they looked strong and balanced. They dominate across the board. They hit big. And if they can just start to control those turnovers and those mistakes that they're going to do to themselves, I think that they have things put together, and their play calling is very good as well. Talking to one of the coaches after halftime, came out and said, we've got a whole lot of stuff that we practiced all week that we haven't even ran yet. So I know they got a lot more on their mind, and they're not satisfied, and they're not particularly happy with the score that they even have from Friday. So I was most impressed with them just, I think, from a standpoint of they want to go far, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do to Paddle Francis Friday and how that game goes.
Throw some more gasoline on the fire for me, Bri. What'd you think about the Tigers?
No, I'm going to echo exactly what he said because I think the East Knoxes and the Crestviews, and this isn't to downplay what they did, they took care of business against teams that were obviously inferior. I think Mansfield Senior had a tougher draw. Lexington's 4-6 record was a little misleading. That's a better football team. The thing that impresses me about the Tigers, and Hayden kind of alluded to this, they are incredibly focused.
Sure.
Talked to Chokey Bradley before the Madison game. That was a team that beat them last year, and they were incredibly focused going into that game. They were incredibly focused going into the Lexington game, and the bar is set high for them now. They have an expectation of making a playoff run. He's been there for 12 years. They've made the postseason 8 of them. So getting a first-round win for them it's okay, but as Hayden said, they're not done. And they have the bar and the expectation level there so high right now that is allowing them to just, okay, we're going to enjoy this for a night. Now we got to focus on the next game. It's really that one game at a time mentality. And it is scary if there is stuff they've left on the practice field and they haven't shown to people yet.
Well, they definitely have the weapons. You outlined that on the perimeter for Brock Hill to get the ball out to. And then the defense, I love them, man. Like you said, maybe no blue chippers out there, but they got a whole lot of, 3-star guys.
Well, yeah. And they're 5-0 at Arlen Field in postseason games, so that gives them an edge going into Friday night as well.
Yeah, getting to play at home again. All right, guys, I like all of your key points, and I appreciate them all, but let me tell you why the real team of the weekend was the Shelby Whippets. Yeah, I know that they didn't blow away Clear Fork, but they beat them by 21 points, and they did it differently than they played every single game this season. Marshall Shepard, no touchdown passes. All he's done is thrown for about 50 this season and over 5,000 yards. So the Whippets, well, they still kind of had the passing game, too. He threw it for 250, but they had to do it on the ground, and they were able to do that. Everyone's been doubting the offensive line. I think they won the point of attack Saturday night or Friday night. Their game was against Clear Fork, so 4 touchdowns on the ground, 30 carries, over 120 yards. And then the defense, how about them holding the Colts to just 190 yards of total offense? They turned them over 3 times. Clear Fork was never a factor in this game. They scored late on a really awesome play by Victor Skoog. But I think that the Shelby Whippets impressed me the most because they had to play different football than their actual brand because of the conditions, and they were able to do it. So they proved to me that this team's going to be a contender when they get deeper into the postseason, though they're going to have to play a really good season against Clyde really soon. Got something, Brian?
Did anybody else notice that funny-looking brown stuff on Shelby's uniforms? They're not used to playing it. You have all these schools playing on the turf. They had to go and they had to play in the mud, and then they had the yellow ball.
Yeah.
What was up with that?
I thought you were going to say funny-looking brown stuff on my nose for me talking nice about Shelby, but not that. Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, having to play in the mud, and they did it well, Storm. You've seen it. It's been all Marshall Shepard all year, drop back and pass 50 times, so the fact that they had to run it and do it well, I mean, it had to make you appreciate what they did a little bit, right?
Oh, definitely. And the thing I like the most is Marshall's decision making.
Sure.
I know a couple times earlier in the season, he felt like he needed to force the pass to make a play, but now he's doing it with his legs.
Yeah.
He doesn't see anyone open. Like you're watching right now, he's not forcing the pass. I think week 1, week 2, or week 3, Marshall tries to fit that ball in there. He decides to run for it, and look what happens. They get a touchdown. So I think Marshall has matured a lot even over the season. I know he started off amazing, but I just think that his football IQ has gone way up, and that's really been helping as well.
All right, so that's our most impressive performances of the first round of the playoffs, guys. But I'm going to go ahead, rewind time. Let's go back and let's think about Week 10 of the high school football season, where we had some killer performances, including our top play of the week and our Friday night phenom. So we let you, the people of North Central Ohio, or wherever you're voting from, decide these things. And this was one of the closest votes that I think that we've had all year. We're going to begin with top play? Let's begin with the top play of the week. And at least in everybody's minds out here on the show, there was no doubt about it. But thanks to the Instagram vote, Highland fans coming out there and supporting, pulling down a one-handed victory, J. Melky Ori.
That is sick.
Wow. Sick is the proper terminology. OBJ-esque, according to my dude Travis Berardi on the call. That was your top play of the week from week number 10. And boy, was it. That made the rounds on the Twitter, picked up by Max Preps and some other places. It's been watched, what, Trav, like closing in on 100,000 times?
It's something like that. At least 25,000 times on Twitter, and then Max Press put it on Facebook. It's about 25. Yeah, it's getting up there. I'm sorry you have to hear my voice over top of it going crazy, but, very, very impressive catch. Got to be Catch of the Year nominee, right?
Yeah, I think that was probably the best catch that we had on our airwaves this year, though we had a lot of good ones. Melchiori was also in the mix for Friday Night Phenom and just missed out, guys, by a couple of votes. This one came down to the wire, so it is not Jay Melchiori. It was this gentleman, also from the K-Mac. And how about the sophomore who was the best player in the Devil Dog game, Cole DeLauder. This dude is phenomenal, and he got it done in this one too. 3 times he was able to get into the end zone to help knock off Danville to secure East Knox not 1 but 2 home games in Howard this season, and that's one of the best rivalries that we have, small school football in the entire state. So if you play well in this one, that means that you strapped it up big time. Cole DeLauder was your Friday Night Phenom for week number 10. And I think what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to take all the winners from every single week throughout the season, and we're going to mash them all up, and we're going to let you guys vote and decide what was the top play of the year on the OH.Report, and then also who had the best performance of the season, the best Friday Night Phenom of the year. And I almost guarantee it's going to be won by a K-Mac player, because that's what seems to happen out here, right? They find us the most on the Facebooks and the Twitters and the YouTubes and everywhere. So we'll shake those up for you guys coming out here in about a week, and we'll let you vote and decide.
And Brian, just one more thing about that Devil Dog game. Did you see that, just in case you got sick or something, there was a backup OH.Report crew that was at the game there?
The 2.0 version.
Our friends at East Knox came out with the OH.Report setup.
That's slick.
That is awesome. Imitation the best source of flattery or something. That's what the saying is.
And it just lets me know, on Saturday, if I can't make it, I got some friends down in Howard that can take over the reins. We'll get them set up with our microphones and all of our fancy graphics. So 2.0, we'll be seeing you out in Howard on Saturday night. I'll come say what's up. get a photo together or something. All right, guys, now let's look ahead at the playoff picture in week number 12 and show you, where we're at this point in the season. And we'll begin with the big dogs, the big guys, Division 3, Region 10, where Mansfield Senior is still alive. And they're one of a few local teams that we still have in the mix out here. And actually, this was a case where, if we're going to bring up the bracket, the top 8 seeds all won. They all protected home field, Bry. So, number 1, Norton actually got tested a little bit by Copley, but everybody else that was supposed to win kind of did.
They did. They took care of business, which is what you would expect. We did see a few upsets, and we talked about this during the game down at East Knox. You saw a few upsets, but for the most part, the upper seeds took care of business. Mansfield Senior, this is a winnable game Friday night, but Norton is waiting in the wings, and that's a really good football team.
So let's start with the Tigers then. They got to play Padua, who's a number 5 seed, coming up in their next game. How big of a believer are you in the Tigers to get it done and emerge out of this D3 Region 10?
I think the momentum continues. I think they're going to ride Brock Hill and that defense as far as they can. They have them at home. I think Padua Franciscan, I would be surprised if it's a 2-score game.
Okay. Let's dive a little bit deeper into that matchup, Franciscan versus Mansfield Senior. And you alluded to the fact that the Tigers undefeated at home in the playoffs, Bryce, so that bodes well for them. They really like playing at the friendly confines of Arlen Field. There's just some kind of a mystique there, I think, for the Tigers when they get to play there.
There is, and it's all the talk about you get to sleep in your own bed, you don't have to travel, and all that stuff. But
Sure.
I still go back to the mental focus that this team is playing with right now, and the fact they're also not making the big mistake. They're not committing the big penalty. That focus is carrying over into how they perform on the field and how they execute and how they do the little things. And I think that bodes well for them as they get deeper into this playoff run. And I think they're just going to go as far as this defense can take them.
It's a pretty darn good defense. We're going to have that one live and free for you guys Friday night, 7 p.m. Mr. Harder will be on the call along with Bruce Wyrick. Let's move on now to Division 4, Region 14, where we had a major shakeup in the bracket with the top-seeded Bellevue Redmond actually going down. They were the only number 1 seed in the entire state that lost. So it's a part of history that you don't want to be on the other end of. But how about that big 16 seed moving on? And then another mini upset with Sandusky Perkins getting by 16 versus a 9 there. Keystone's going to play Port Clinton in the other game there with those two teams moving forward. But the Shelby-Clyde meeting is the one that we really want to talk about. It's going to be the 3rd straight year. Storm, how much faith do you have in your Whippets winning on the road against a Flyer team who has been smoking hot?
It's going to be a battle, to say
Yeah.
the least,
Yeah.
I think. I don't really want to make a prediction because I really don't have a prediction. I mean,
That's fair.
I think whoever wins this one is going to have to score 50. I really do think that this one's going to be a shootout. Marshall's going to do his thing. Clyde put up a bunch of points versus Galion, so I'm assuming, it's going to be a battle. I'm struggling for words just because it's so hard to bet against the Whippets, but Clyde is just so good,
Yeah.
And, I mean, the real key, I think, is going to be the Shelby Whippets defense. Can they step up? Can they make stops? Can they get it done when it counts most?
So Clyde won the state championship just a couple of seasons ago, and oh, by the way, there's the defending state champs waiting in the wings there, the number 3 seed of Van Wert. Let's dive a little bit deeper, though, into the Shelby matchup with the Flyers. As mentioned, 3rd straight time that they're going to be playing in postseason action. Shelby won, Clyde won, and now this is going to be the tiebreaker for round 3 moving forward. Hayden, if you want to drop in here and tell me just what you think about Shelby collectively as a unit being able to take on a Clyde team that you just did a highlight for, and they've got it going on both sides of the football field. Defense is opportunistic. It's going to be a fun matchup. I think, like Storm said, the winner's probably going to be in the 40s at least.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of offense in this game, and that's not a discredit to either team's defense. Those haven't been particularly the strong suits for either team this year. I think, and obviously, a little bit of bias. This is a district and region where Shelby's a really darn good 7 seed. So that's a credit to the entire bracket that we looked at. These are really, really good teams. I agree with Storm's saying that it's going to have to be a lot of points. I think Shelby, they're going to have the same type of production out of Skylar Winters, and Marshall's going to have to do the same thing he's been doing all year if they want to compete. I was not one of those teams that has played. I was not on one of those teams that played Clyde in the last 3 years since I graduated before them. But it's kind of cool to see one of those where it's a team you're not used to playing a ton, and you're continuing this postseason little rivalry. So I think they have it in them, but they're going to need to be the most disciplined they've been all year. I know Mahaney's going to get them ready, but it's just going to be about execution, and I'll be excited to be up at that game.
Yeah, and Shelby fans rejoice. You guys have been asking us all year long. Well, we see your comments coming in on Facebook and so forth. We will have this game for you live and free, so Whip It Nation, you can watch your team on a live stream. I think for the first time this year on the OH.Report, though. Yeah. We've had you covered with the great highlights via Storm Blunchley all season, but it's going to be cool to be able to have this one for you guys via the live stream. Head-to-head, these two teams. I think you're right. It's kind of cool. It's a new rivalry now that they're starting to meet in the postseason. Shelby, though, the victors last year. We'll see if they can make it 2 in a row. All right, let's go to D6 Region 22 now, where the top seeds, again, at least the top 7, really dominant. The only upset that we saw out here, Western Reserve, and it was just a mini upset, too. The 9 seed over the 8 seed. Other than that, it's all chalk. Exciting second-round matchup, too, that I think we're all really looking forward to. Crestview, Colonel Crawford combined 21-1 records in that one. What say you about that big matchup, Hayden?
Sure. That is going to be probably, other than maybe in seeding is misleading, like a 5-4 Liberty Center Tigers and Columbus Grove. That, you looking at the seeds, that might be the best game on paper, but I think this is going to be the best game in person. Obviously, Lincoln Mollenkoff has been a huge force for Colonel Crawford this year, so. The Crestview defense, though, I think they're up to the task. They're going to have to be on point because if you shut down Mollenkoff, I think they'll be really successful. I think they come out and play like they did week 1 as well, and you get that balance from Hayden Kuhn. Storm was talking about it. He didn't even have to come out and do everything he did. And just personally, I don't think they have anything left to prove to anyone. I've seen what I need to from them, but I love the fire that they still feel the need to just keep letting that fuel them. So I think that will be a really exciting matchup to see. 2 good running backs going at it, 2 good teams overall going at it. So I don't like to, make super far ahead predictions as well. But I think if Crestview slows down Mollenkoff, they'll be able to get the job done and move on. And I would really like to see a Cary versus Crestview. We won't get too far in the future, but a lot of good teams in this area again as well. You got some of the Columbus schools in there as well. So just a loaded region, and I'll be ready to see the results after this next weekend. Number 1 seed still out there. Western Reserve going to have to go on the road and battle Archbold, but like you mentioned, Cary waiting in the wings for the winner of that Crestview versus Colonel Crawford game. But their opponent, Tenora, those are probably the 2 most dominant teams on paper that we have in the entire region. I did a little bit of research on both of those teams today, and Tenora on the season holding their opponents to about 10 points per game while averaging right around a 50 burger. But guess what? Cary does the same exact thing. So that actually might be the game to get a ticket to this weekend. But right here, for our money in this area, it's all about the Crestview Cougars playing at home against Colonel Crawford. Let's get a little bit deeper into this one, put the magnifying glass on this fantastic matchup, and it's going to be 2 top running attacks going head-to-head, Travis. So, give me some thoughts on what you think. Lincoln Mollenkoff, I think the number 2 rusher in the area. Connor Morris, I believe the number 3 rusher in the area. And the throwing attack for the Cougars. 2 good defenses, too. These are 2 really impressive teams. Don't look at Colonel Crawford as a number 7 seed. I think they're a lot better than that.
No, you can't. Crawford with only 1 loss, and they played Cary tough in the regular season. It's just the Northern 10, their opponents, not getting them enough, playoff bonus points to be higher. I could see them as a 4 or 5 seed easily. But actually, Mollenkoff jumped Dane Nauman in Week 10, so he is your rushing champion by, I think, 20 or 30 yards. But then you have Connor Morse at number 3 as well, and we saw them against St. Paul and Crestview. They have that defense that can shut down some of the best. Crawford, more of a running attack. They can pass the ball as well, but I mean, Crestview, they're just extremely talented this year, especially, not trying to look forward to it, but the same situation for them and Shelby. They play tough teams in round 2, but the opportunity to play the teams that knocked them out of the playoffs in round 3 in Van Wert and here with Crestview and Cary. So hopefully they don't overlook this week, because Colonel Crawford, like I said, they could be a 4 or a 5 seed with the running attack. They're a little bit of a passing game as well, but they focus on that running attack. And Crestview, with that great defense, we'll see if they can hold them up.
And you guys can see that one live and free right here on the OH.Report on Saturday night. Kickoff for that one scheduled for 7 p.m. Moving on now to Division 6, Region 23, where we saw the number 5 seed out there was upset. So was the number 7, but the top 4 teams that played at home on Saturday night all took care of business. You see there, Kip Columbus was able to move on to the second round. The number 12, that's the highest remaining seed. But Worthington Christian also with an upset victory on the road over Afrocentric. So they're going to have to play Fairland. And then West Jefferson versus Northmor is a game we're going to talk a little bit more about. The number 1 seed, Fort Fry, they're still out there. They're going to have their hands full with Nelsonville, York, and the Buckeyes. That's a really quality number 8 seed. Looked a little bit into them today. And then Barnesville, they get to play at home as well. So let's talk more about the number 3 versus the number 6 matchup here. West Jefferson going to be playing at home against Northmor. The Rough Riders have beat 6 playoff teams this year. The Knights with a nice bounce-back win just this past week. So, Travis, quick thoughts on this one and how you see it shaking out for the Golden Knights.
Well, like I said, after we showed the highlight of their round 1 victory, they have to be more balanced. Cortez, over 700 yards passing this year. They're going to have to play like they did against East Knox. They played, I believe, a perfect game against the Bulldogs. They were able to throw the ball, they were able to run the ball, and it got them into the win column against, like we saw, a very good East Knox squad, and we'll see them here in a little bit in the brackets. But West Jefferson, really good squad. Their quarterback's thrown over 3,000 yards, and they have a running back that's 3 yards away from 1,000. So it's a very balanced squad, and that's going to test those linebackers from Northmor that have been able to get a lot of pressure. They're not going to be able to run these full-out blitzes because the passing game is pretty good from West Jefferson. So they're going to have to play one of the more of those complete games defensively, but as well as on the offensive side, they're going to have to get the ball rolling in the air because we know Max Lauer and company, they can run the ball. It's if they can pass the ball.
Brian Harder, you're going to be calling this game for us on Saturday night at West Jefferson on the outskirts of Columbus. The Golden Knights 5-0 at home this season. Do you feel like they have on the road, I'm sorry. You feel like they have the pieces to get it done against a team like that?
I think they do, but I agree with Travis. I think they do need a little bit more balance. And it was interesting. I saw Northmor a couple of times last year, and Max Lauer played like a typical sophomore. He had games where he would play well, and he had other games where he just wasn't quite as aggressive. It has been nice to see him mature as a player and now take over a ball game, and he is the guy that they're looking to. I think as a junior, the way that he's put together physically, he is a beast.
He's a man
in the backfield. But Travis is right. They're going to need a little bit more balance, and they're going to have the same game plan against West Jefferson that they had against East Knox, because the defense, they're going to do what they can do to stop Lauer. And I would guess they're probably going to say, you know what, if you're going to beat us, you're going to have to do it by throwing the football.
All right, so that's going to do it for D6 Region 23. Let's move on to Division 7 now and begin with Region 25, where the Lucas Cubs, the number 1 seed, they're still out there. They got tested a little bit early against Mapleton, but they got the dub. St. Paul won big. JFK and Dalton both with shutout victories, so they have their defenses performing well in their openers. Now down at the bottom of the screen, you see the Flyers. They're going to have to match up with Southern and a team that just barely got into the playoffs. They think only had 4 wins or something on the season, but they are moving on. Cuyahoga Heights, a team starting to get into playoff mode. They're in just about every single year now, but going against John F. Kennedy Catholic and the Eagles, who won the region a season ago. So this, one of the tougher brackets, in my opinion, in the state. Up top, Lucas, still the number 1 seed, and they are going to have another battle against Malvern on Friday night. Trav, do you believe that the Cubs are the favorites to survive and make it out of this bracket?
Absolutely, because I believe the Lucas Cubs have the more favorable first 2-round part of this bracket, the top half of the bracket. You got Dalton and Independence have it going at it, knocking into each other here, and then at the bottom you also had JFK and company against Cuyahoga Heights, a team that Lucas defeated last year in the playoffs. So you have these playoff teams going against each other. But for Malvern, let's focus on them for a second. Their quarterback just over 1,000 yards rushing, but they have a 3-headed rushing attack. Two two running backs with over 500 yards, another one at 433. So kind of like the Lucas Cubs, who have Grant Barrett with over 1,000 yards rushing, 1101, Finello at 751, and then you have Zane Finley with 321. So this may be a very quick game down at Bob Wine. I think Lucas still the better squad coming out of this one, but it might be a battle of two comparable offenses.
And at Bob Wine Field is where the game's going to be played. The Cubs almost never lose there. You saw the statistic in the last 3 seasons, just 3 losses for Lucas at home. So let's move on now. Division 7, Region 25, or 27 now, as we'll flip the page on Region 25. And this is another region where all of the higher seeds showed out on opening weekend, so it's going to make for an exciting tournament, I think, here. East Knox was sharp in their opener, Brian. You saw them. They've got a test, though. The Trimble Tomcats, this is a team that's been wrecking the competition here as of late.
They do, but it's going to come down again to the balance that East Knox has. And we saw kind of a quiet night from Cole DeLauder. I don't expect that in back-to-back weeks. I expect him to come out and really take control of this game early, because then if they're able to do that and establish the run, that opens things up for Peyton Lester in the passing game. And as we have seen all season long, that defense has just gelled, and they've really been opportunistic and able to create some things with the pick six that we saw last week. And they're just fundamentally, they're almost kind of like the senior high defense. You don't have that standout guy. They don't have a Weston Melick like they had in the past, but they've got the scheme and the overall personnel that they got guys all over the field that can make plays. And yes, it will be a big matchup for them this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun, exciting matchup, I think, for sure. And definitely a real test for the Bulldogs. As mentioned, the Tomcats, they just shut out their opponent in the playoff game. This is their 3rd straight shutout, and then I think their 5th of the season. So they have proven that they can knock out some folks with their defensive hammer. But, against competition that wasn't that great, Brian. We looked at it, and they were beating up on some not-so-good teams. So when they play a offense like East Knox, it should be good versus good. This is going to be a good one.
Yeah, I don't see the offense for East Knox struggling against this defense.
Agreed. All right, guys, we're going to have that one for you live and free on the OH.Report on Saturday night, too. East Knox taking on Trimble. 6-0 at home are the Dogs this season. We'll see if they can make it 7-0 in Howard in a Cats versus Dogs matchup. That one's going to be Saturday, 7 p.m. kickoff. Yours truly is going to be on the call for this 5 versus 4 matchup. We're going to take a quick commercial break and say goodbye to Brian Harder before we do. And when we come back, we're going to break down some playoff soccer and get you ready for the week ahead on the OH.Report. So appreciate you coming in, Brian.
My pleasure.
Good times, man. Oh, and a round of applause from everybody in the building. How about that? OH.Report's own Brian Harder. We'll step away. We'll be right back for the rest of the program. Stay tuned.
Products is a leader in the outdoor power equipment industry. We create products that help consumers build memories. Whether it's inspiring people to care for a public garden or enjoy their backyard with family and friends, community is at the heart of what we do at MTD Products. We're looking for people who want to be a part of our future and who are dedicated to cutting-edge product innovation and outstanding customer service. We'll provide you with the necessary tools for success in your career at MTD and help inspire people to care for and enjoy the outdoors around the world.
Back here on the OH.Report video podcast, we are going to move from the gridiron over to the pitch now. Sweet 16 action going down over the next couple of days, and this is always one of my favorite rounds of the soccer tournament because it's district champions all going head-to-head in the regional semifinals, and we still have two teams from Richland County that are in the tournament looking to play for state championships eventually. One of them actually the defending state champion in Division II for the girls. The Madison Lady Rams are still playing, but so are the Lexington Minutemen, who have been really dominant so far in the postseason action. But my question for you guys is, of those two teams, who has been most impressive so far through their district championship portion of the tournament? We'll begin with you, Storm. We haven't heard from you in a minute. I kind of miss you.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been Madison. Ontario was the team to beat this year. I think we are all in agreement on the girls' side of things. Ontario was that team that, you know, if you wanted to have a chance at this, you had to beat Ontario. And Madison just did that. And I want to highlight something, especially coming into the season. I feel like Madison had a big target on their back. Like, they had a huge target on their back. They had a lot of doubters. A lot of people said that they wouldn't be as good. And I think I was one of those included. But they proved everyone wrong. I mean, even at Lexington, there were some Lexington fans there who were from Lexington that were cheering on Ontario.
Wow.
So Madison really had to fight through a lot to get there, and they did it, and they were coming off the game where Ontario had beat them already on the October 13th, and they won by 4 goals, Ontario did. So to come back on all that and win in overtime in the dramatic fashion, I mean, wow.
Is it the Lady Rams, Hayden? Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree, and I'm really impressed with their persistence and ability to stay consistently great. You know, I put here in my notes, they don't have to rebuild, they just replace. That's a credit to who's come through there and a credit to who they have now. They have it in their culture, and good soccer is there, and I'm just more impressed with them, not to take away from the Lexington boys, but as Storm hit the nail on the head, Ontario was someone that you had to get through if you wanted to get out of this and make it to state semis or the state championship. So they've taken down the beast that is Ontario. And, you know, Lima Shawnee, they're 15-1. They have 9 shutout wins on the year. So they're going to have to score. You know, they're going to have to look to get goals on there. And we talked about their defense being impressive against Ontario. So it could be a low-scoring one. But overall, I'm definitely impressed with the run they have going. And I'm excited to see coming up this week, you know, if they're able to keep this thing going.
I'm in total agreement with you guys, and because of the reason that they graduated the 2-time State Player of the Year, and oh, by the way, the recently named SEC Freshman of the Year. How about Taylor Huff and what that girl's doing right now at the next level?
Well, yeah.
Second team all SEC too as a true freshman, so yeah, she's not available for them. They lost 5 of their top 6 goal scorers from last year, a team that was the undefeated, undisputed state champions. They lost their entire 3 players that played on the back defensive line, and all they did was just fill them in with some sophomores, just a couple of upperclassmen. That's all that's available on the team right now, and Madison was able to knock off that big giant, like Storm alluded to, of Ontario that everybody has felt like was the clear favorite, the easiest path to get onto the regionals. Well, guess what? Nevaeh Lewis and company, they had other ideas. She's a really dynamic playmaker. That, to me, is why Madison impressed me most, because I didn't expect him to get here. I didn't expect him to get past Clear Fork, to be perfectly frank. I think I said that on the podcast last week. I thought that the Lady Colts were the second best team in here, and boy, have they proved me wrong. I was a doubter, so there's some bulletin board material for Madison. Moving on now, I feel like they have a ton of confidence with what they just accomplished. What a crazy overtime win. I still can't believe they called that a goal, but I guess it was, and that's why Madison's moving on. I do want to give a quick shout-out, though, to Lexington, if I could, because, man, I think I wrote it down. What have they? They've outscored their tournament opponents 41-4. They've been really good, and I'm guessing that's why Travis Berardi feels like they've been the most impressive.
You're darn right. They've taken care of business. Their one loss is to Bay. We know what that Bay squad can do in the last few years. 1-0. They've already beaten Lima Shawnee, a team that they could see in a regional championship team. But what impresses me most is they do the little things right. They play defense right. They have multiple scores. Didn't they graduate an All-American named Ryan Parker last year as well?
They did a 2-time All-American, just like T. Huff.
And what did they do? They got better. They're 14-1-4. Their 2 sectional games, 15-0, 13-0. They defeated Huron 7-1. They knocked off Ontario in a crazy game, 6-3. State-ranked squad, doing everything right. They have team speed. They have multiple goal scorers that you can give to at any time and put it in the back of the net. The defense is phenomenal. And like I said, they're doing the little things right, and that is why they've impressed me the most. And I just have this little inkling. I think they're going to be at lower.com field for a state championship this season.
Ooh.
They learned from that Howland game last year, the tough foul call in the regional championship and they lost in overtime on the penalty kick. I believe they can bounce back. I believe they've used that as motivation, and they've shown it this year, and they're going to go, I think, for a state championship. And another good thing in the bracket, Bay and Howland, they play in the first round of the regional. So one of those two teams gets knocked out, and they wouldn't see them until a state semifinal. So they can get past Watterson, get past Shawnee. They have a favorable bracket to get the lower.com field at Columbus.
And something that I think is really cool about that prediction is we talked to Peter Tem after the Ontario win, and he said he had no idea what he had on in his cabinet moving into the season. He was like, if you would have told me before the season that we'd be 8-8 or something, I probably would have been okay with it. I didn't know that we had a team like this, but they continued to fight and develop, and maybe similarly to like Madison, everyone was overlooking them. They didn't have a lot of press clippings early on in the season where they were drawing everybody and not scoring any goals, but then they figured it out. They found out that they got some really impressive players like Depperschmidt, who, wow, he blew me away with his overall quickness in that win over Ontario. So I think both picks are legitimate, but maybe Madison I'd give a slight edge to. We are going to have the Lady Rams for you live and free tomorrow on the OH.Report, and then Lexington on Wednesday. And you might notice, guys, that there's no Halloween decorations behind me or these guys over here or behind Travis anymore because, well, it's over. We just turned the page to November today. Of course, it's the first day of the month. And for some, that means, guess what? Bring on the Christmas jingles, and let's get ready for Frosty and Santa Claus and all that. So my question for you, is it too early to start thinking about Christmas on the first day of November? Start over here with you two.
Yes. There's still a whole other holiday. It's called Thanksgiving.
Right.
It's quite arguably the second best holiday. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a big disrespect towards Thanksgiving that, to start celebrating Christmas. I mean, we still got a whole month before we can even start thinking about Christmas. So, how could you think about Thanksgiving? Football and food. I don't know if there's anything better in life.
I think you're right. That's a pretty tasty combo, and that's why I totally agree. Put some respect on Thanksgiving. You know what I mean? Christmas is the holiday season. You guys can have December. You can have the whole entire month. Just give us Thanksgiving first. Right, Hayden?
Oh, 100%. It's a pet peeve of mine how quick we rush things anymore. It just bothers me. Live in the moment, people. Enjoy the holidays while they're here. We're going to have time for Christmas. I love Christmas. We have plenty of time to get to that. I don't need to. I mean, pretty soon we're going to see Valentine's Day stuff if we continue this fast pace.
That's true.
So
it actually does happen.
Yeah.
New Year's happens and immediately, bam, right into Valentine's Day, even though it's 2 months away from January. I mean, it's crazy what they do. But I'm about on the same line as you, Hayden, but I think, it's the night of Thanksgiving. Because, I mean, look, we're still eating our Halloween candy from yesterday. I mean, we're going to be eating these for the next 2-3 weeks. Complaining about how we're gaining weight for no reason after eating all the candy. But anyway, I'm going Thanksgiving night. After you've eaten, after you had your third, fourth helping of pumpkin pie, after you watch the late night football Thanksgiving game, that's when we have a tradition. We throw in Christmas vacation, and that starts everything. We watch it, from Thanksgiving night until Christmas night. I know the radio stations play Christmas music the week before Thanksgiving. No, not that. Thanksgiving evening, that's when things should start.
Yeah, and what was the statistic that you threw out at me? Is that the Mariah Carey Christmas album is already starting to be one of the top streamed?
So I found on Twitter a verified source that said, they posted it at 1:18 this morning, that Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You is already into the top 200 on Apple Music. 1 hour into November. Halloween, the last viewing of Halloween on AMC was still going on. Hits midnight and boom. Already in the top 200 for that darn song that will never, ever leave our heads. And
I mean, it's a classic track.
It's a classic, but
we got to
at least wait until Thanksgiving,
Great
Mariah.
song
Come
on
on.
its own time.
Yeah, it's a great song when it's the season, and it's not the season yet. So again, let's put a little respect on Thanksgiving. I know that it's harder to decorate for it because there's so many great props and items and different things that you can do for Christmas as Travis stuffs his mouth with Halloween candy. So we're not even past Halloween here on the OH.Report. We are not
only a
anywhere
few
near
hours
being ready
ago.
for Christmas.
Only a few hours ago. I mean,
Not
come
even
on.
close. All right, let's end the great debate before it gets us all too fired up. But man, I'm already looking forward to food and Thanksgiving and
Stuffing and mashed
all that
potatoes, turkey.
all that good stuff. But hey, we got a lot of games to get to in the meantime. How about these games coming up this week on the OH.Report? I believe we're going to begin with tomorrow. That makes sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Go
in
in
order?
order
Yeah.
of the week.
Big Madison taking on
Big Madison.
A
Taking on
variety
Big
of
Shawnee.
sports as well on the OH.Report.
So that's going to be going down tomorrow. I don't know if we get Jesse Ryder on the call for that one. He said it was still up in the air. We kind of hope so. He's fantastic on our calls. I'll certainly be talking to you guys throughout
better
this
than me.
contest. And, it's a fun one. Who now is a believer in the Lady Rams? Is the real one the bandwagon for us? I think I'm starting to jump on board.
I'll be the first to admit it.
Are we all there?
Yeah, sign us up. I mean, we're
If
already
they play the
signed up.
defensive game they played against Ontario and you get Lewis out in open space, they can probably beat anybody.
Yeah, I agree. So for all those reasons, that's why I think it could be a pretty good game. Shawnee's got that gaudy-looking record. They got all the shutout wins. But we believe in our Madison Lady Rams. You can watch that game tomorrow. Pre-game coverage, probably right around 6:45. And then the very next day, how about Lexington and the impressive Minutemen? They're going to be taking on Bishop Watterson. This game goes down at 6 o'clock on the boys' side. And another fun matchup. You've seen Lexington a bunch this year, Mr. Storm Blunchley. This is a quality team, man. They got some good players. I think Travis might be onto something. They could be on a collision course for the state Final Four.
Yeah, and I'm very excited to watch them. They're just so much fun to watch. After they got their early kinks out of the system, where they were drawing a bunch of teams, couldn't really score. I mean, when their offense is clicking, they're a lot of fun to watch. And just how they suffocate teams on defense. I want to give a huge shout out to Peter Tem, just a phenomenal head coach. And my favorite part about him is his competitive fire. I mean, I've seen games where he's up 8 goals to nothing, and he'll have a 30-minute conversation with the refs about the game because he saw something he didn't like. I mean, that's just how competitive he was. And they blew the team out. It's crazy to me, so huge shout out to him.
That is the culture, and that is why the Minutemen is the Minutemen, and why they're back into the round of regionals yet again. I think that's 6th time in 8 years.
They're going to be on turf, too. Both Madison and Lexington playing at Harding with the turf. That's just going to help them fast track for those speedsters out front. It should be a good night for the Minutemen.
All right, let's move from the turf onto the hardwood now. And Thursday volleyball action. Travis Berardi, Mackenzie Weaver going to be on the call for Monroeville versus Downton. 2 quality small school programs. Looking forward to seeing the Eagles again. This team took off during the districts.
Yes, they did. Very impressive wins. They knocked off a St. Paul squad in the district semifinal that beat them twice. It took the Firelands Conference Championship away from them. They swept them, and then the number 3 team in the state, Buckeye Central team that Monroeville beat earlier in the year, they swept them out as well. Now they're going up against the Dalton squad that knocked them out of the regionals last year. But this Monroeville squad, I am a huge fan of them. I bought into the hype during the districts and just what they played for. They played for Delaney, one of their teammates that tragically passed away earlier. She was in a car wreck. Your coach told us after the last match, was in a car wreck, recovered, became homecoming queen, and then a few days later, she passed away tragically. But they're playing for her. They're playing for their town. That place was packed. Monroeville just loves their Lady Eagles, and I can't wait to get there on Thursday. I know Mackenzie, she's excited as well. But this is a squad, fate may be on their side this year.
And I like the fact that they're playing a team that knocked them out a season ago, so that they got some of that playoff rivalry going on. Always a good time. If any of our local teams win in these 3 games, we will then be seeing them on Saturday as well, just so you guys know. Okay, how about Friday night? Here's what's going on.
Football Friday night.
Football Friday night.
night.
Woo-woo! That's right. We're going to have the Shelby Whippets and the Clyde Flyers. This one going down on the road at Clyde. Travis and I are going to have the call for you guys. Dude, this is going to be a fun, exciting contest that I guarantee has a combined at least 80 points. That's my prediction.
This will be the first time you and I get to see the Whippets because of, things out of our reach that we haven't been able to see them live, but now we finally get to see them. I'm excited to see what Marshall Shepard, the should-be 5-time Phenom champion, but,
Right.
is
With no wins. No victories.
But still, I can't wait to
Sorry
see
to
what
bring
they
it
do against Clyde. And like you said, it should be a high-scoring affair. Hayden and Storm, your thoughts on this matchup?
A big thing I think is that Marshall Shepard's going to have to get out to a hot start. When he, he's going up against a very good Clyde defense, and when he comes out and he throws an early interception, I mean, he gets rattled, and that's something that scares me. So he's just going to have to come out, probably play his best game of the year this year, and that'll be the key for them.
Well, his best game of the year would be like 3,700 yards and 9 touchdowns in the game, so he might want to get his Wheaties in the morning or something. Come on.
Yeah, definitely, but I think he's going to have to at least come out and have a hot start. He can't come out and make a mistake there in the first, because I really think that rattles him, and it kind of affects him the whole rest of the game. So he's going to have to come out, hot start for him, and I think the Shelby Whippets will be able to get it done.
Alma Mater getting it done?
I'm going to keep it short. I'm going to echo everything Storm said. I would like to see the Whippets victorious. And in terms of Marshall Shepard, if we do so, still has a chance. Still has a chance if we do a season-long Phenom of the year.
This is true.
Still has a chance. So...
Oh, no, he never won, so
No.
he's not in the
Oh, that's
conversation.
right.
Never mind.
It's true.
Thanks, Marshall.
Hype Man Storm. We haven't
Thanks a
seen
lot.
Hype Man Storm here in a while since the beginning of the season. Hype Man Storm, can you hype the Whippets up for this one?
I don't know, man. It's just so discouraging when Marshall never wins Phenom, but I'm really hoping for him still.
So there it is,
Who
Hype
knows?
Man
Okay.
Storm getting the Whippets ready for action. Friday night, we'll have another game as well, live and free for you guys from Arlen Field. How about never mind. Let's talk about Saturday, huh? How about the Crestview Cougars, Colonel Crawford Eagles? In my personal opinion, of all the games going down this weekend that we are going to have, this is the most delicious one on the menu because it's two local teams that are just so dominant. Something's got to give. All of a sudden, one of them's not going to be dominant. So we'll see who's who and what's what.
What?
It's actually kind of cool because Crestview has to travel to these places a lot. Has to travel to Colonel Crawford during most postseasons, or travel to Cary to most postseasons. But this year, getting to host a second-round playoff game, gotta be exciting, especially on that new turf.
Oh, it's so nice.
And for Colonel Crawford, this is going to be a proving ground. I believe the only other kind of tough competition they played this year is Cary.
Sure.
So they could prove a lot of doubters wrong here, or Crestview could keep the Cinderella story going.
Yeah, the Cougars obviously undefeated on the season, and since they got that shiny new turf, man, have they looked good at home. That should be a fun contest. We're going to be tag teaming that game with the WNCO crew. The beautiful pipes of Brandon Wells will be on the call. All right, next line. I guess I don't really know what's coming, so it's going to be
the excitement.
mystery for me, too. How about the Lucas Cubs on Saturday night playing at home where they almost never lose? And how about the RPO game, Trav?
Oh, this is, like I said, a Malvern squad that has 3 running backs, 2 over 500, 1 over 430, but then you got the Lucas Cubs, a healthy Andrew Finello, you got Grant Barrett, and then you have Zane Finley as well, just running down your throat. Like I said, this may be a very, very fast football game,
We're cool with
but
that.
with the Lucas Cubs and Tom's getting closer to getting healthy and getting back out there, so they want to win for him to get him back out on the field maybe next week or maybe in 2 weeks. But, you're at Bob Wine Field. You're playing against the whole city of Lucas. You get the music blaring. You get the fireworks out of the end zone. And you have the RPO of the Lucas Cubs. It's going to be a fun one once again up there.
I love how you refer to Lucas as a city with all 800 folks that they have out there, but
Seems like
somehow
it feels like it, right?
they seem to find 50 of them that are good at football every single year. That's what they've done yet again, the number 1 seed. So 2 good running attacks going head-to-head. Typically, that favors the Cubs. We're going to have the crew
MAN.
of WMAN on this one. Yeah, Aaron Hines will be Chris Miller, I believe, who Jory said did a pretty good job in his first commentating debut last week. Okay. Next up, The East Knox Bulldogs. This is the call that I get thrilled to be able to go back to Howard, one of the coolest small school environments, and they treat us very well over there. They love the OH.Report. We love them right back. So, it's just a lot of love out there in Howard, but will they have what it takes to knock off the Trimble team? This is a pre-owned power, just like East Knox is. So something's got to give. Two great defenses going toe-to-toe, and a little bit of cowbell might be what get East Knox through to the next round, but it's going to be tough against the Tomcats, who have pitched 3 consecutive shutouts. So I'm going to be on the call for that one on Saturday night in Howard, and I just love seeing all you folks out there in the stands, including our whoop-whoop football Saturday night boy. Can't wait to see you again. And if they win and move on, well, I think we're going to do a video together for the intro. Something like that. I already talked about it. It'll be cool. All right, we got more, right? One more?
2.
2 more? Oh, here it is. Let's go back to football Friday night. And how about them TY Tigers getting to play at home? They've never lost there during the postseason. Will it happen on Friday night?
Not a chance.
Can you repeat the question, sir?
No, because you know why? Tigers got the juice.
Tigers do got the juice.
got the juice.
They have been rolling so far this season. Played some tough competition. No exception again with the Bears of the Bruins or whatever coming to their place. We'll see. Padua Franciscan versus Mansfield Senior. Brian Harder, Bruce Whitework on the call. You can watch that one live and free. 6:45 p.m.
Only Bears we like around here are Cubs.
That's fair. All right, guys. I think that's all I have for today, right? We don't have.
Don't forget
Oh,
my
Travis,
golden
how
night.
could you
Come
forget?
on, K-Mac Trips.
Oh,
Come on,
Guys, we love you. We have one in the mix
Come
right
to
now.
me. Come to me.
Just let's go to
Come here.
K-Mac Trav.
The Northmor Golden Knights travel to West Jefferson against a very daunted passing attack. Got some running as well. Like we said, Northmor, you got to get the balance going. Marcus Cortez, I have a feeling you're going to have the best passing game of your career. Max Lauer's going to go for over 150 yards. The Golden Knights are going to go down to West Jefferson. That defense is going to get sack after sack after sack, and they're going to come out with the first ever round 2 victory in school history. They've won one playoff game a couple times, but they're going for 2. They're going to get it, and they're going to go to the regional semifinal, which we will follow them as well, because that's what Golden Knight football is all about. Please don't make me look like a fool.
I have nothing to add.
Nope. I couldn't have said it any better. Tigers
And
again.
back to
Let's
Friday
go,
night
Mansfield
again.
Senior.
Those Tigers will be playing at home. You can watch it right here on the OH.Report, just in case you didn't know and you needed reminded. That's going to be on our main channel, on our YouTube, as well as our Facebook. We tried Golden Knights. Maybe next week. Go ahead and get a win for K-Mac Trav and move on. That's going to do it today for, a long OH.Report video podcast. But now that we're merged with the Friday night pigskin, there's a lot to get to, including dinner. I think we need to go get some meals on our bodies, guys. So,
Gotta say hi to Eric Will. Eric Will was watching. He wasn't here today. Brian Harder filled in for him from the pigskin. But Coach Will always watching us on the OH.Report when he's not here.
Yeah, this is Eric. Maybe we'll get you in next week right here on the OH.Report video podcast / Friday Night Pigskin. We out.